216-578-1007. Practice some air guitar with this. 35192 if you want to text. AlanCoxShow.com. You can watch live there. If the app is working, of course, you can listen on the iHeartRadio app. I checked it a little bit ago. It seemed to be working for me. Hopefully it works for you. Thank you to Jars Mulgrick for help. Unless it's Yars. I never know.
That's funny.
I'm going to go with the Jars. Jars Mulgrick helping out in the video department today. Much appreciated.
Name sounds familiar.
Jars Mulgrick,
Mm-hmm.
possibly of the Helsinki Mulgricks.
Oh.
It's a very prominent Finnish family, I believe. I think. I don't know.
It's Jars.
Jars Mulgrick. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. Your Cavaliers playing here at home tonight against one LeBron James, who I understand is from the area. And the LA Lakers. 7:30 tonight here on WMMS and on the iHeartRadio app. 7 o'clock. There will be a mere 30 minutes before this mess concludes, and you get to the Cavs Live pre-game coverage. And then 7:30 is your tip at the Romo Fijo. Cavs are here through the week to play the Kings on Friday night, play the Oklahoma City Thunder on Saturday, and then they'll hit the road again. But if you're a LeBron James fan, probably no shortage of people wearing Lakers jerseys because they're LeBron fans. Maybe not necessarily Cavaliers fans. That's why the hashtag #LetThemKnow is so valuable if you post anything on social media from the game, because it lets them know that you're a homer.
Let M know.
You're a Cavaliers
Who's M?
fan.
Like Emily?
Emily, yes. She works in guest services, and for some reason they've really drilled down on making her the focus of their social media campaign.
Sure.
How about that Bob Rathbun video? This guy has been the long-time announcer for the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, yeah.
He's been there long. You know who owns the Atlanta Hawks? This billionaire hedge fund guy who I think also owns the Brewers. But his wife is Jamie Gertz. Remember Jamie Gertz?
Mm-mm.
They've been married for like 30 years. Jamie Gertz was in The Lost Boys. She was the I Can't Spare a Square
she's real
girl on
pretty.
Seinfeld. Yeah, she was in, I think, Square Pegs back in the day. She was Bill Paxton's uppity wife in Twister. She's been in the biz for a long, long time, and her husband is a billionaire who owns the Atlanta Hawks. He's only owned it for a few years. But this Bob Rathbun guy has been the announcer. I'll show you this in the live stream. This went around on social media, doing a live courtside thing. I don't know if it was post-game. I guess the timer says
yeah.
timer says 26 minutes until tip-off. So this
Okay.
must have been pre-game. And he just goes out on camera.
That's pretty amazing, and you said it right. Poise for a kid this young, 19 years old, come out on the floor each and every night, and he feels like he's belonged. So I look for this kid to have a really good first half of the season. And wow, that's pretty
It's
amazing.
terrifying. Holy cow. And the other dude that's with him,
Well, he's like reading a paper, right?
he's
Yeah.
looking at the camera.
Yeah.
And the other guy, they're saying he was dehydrated. That don't look like no dehydration to me,
It's a
homie.
seizure, dude.
Something. I just don't know how people in life are getting dehydrated. How do you get dehydrated?
You don't drink any water all day. Or you drink a bunch of caffeine if you
But
got
you
a lot to do.
You're
Or
drinking something. This guy, I don't know how old Bob Rathbun is, but he's not a young man. Jet black hair dye to the contrary. But he's been there a long time, and it's terrifying to see. But I guess they say he's doing okay. They referred to it as a medical emergency, and he just kind of shakes. But again, some people were giving his co-host a hard time. The guy's looking at the camera. These guys don't look at each other the whole time. And the guy wasn't like, he didn't jump up out of his seat, so it was nothing you'd see in your periphery. He's 68 years old, but they say that he's stable now.
Just got him some more water.
Huh?
Got him some water. He's all good.
Yeah. They got him a cookie and some apple juice.
I've never
Of course,
been.
it goes, I should mention, the guy who is actually his co-host is Dominique Wilkins,
Yeah.
who was a very prominent Atlanta Hawk for many years.
You've never, maybe you're going to say no. You've never had a day where you've like made it to maybe 5 or 6 p.m. and you're like, damn, I've had one glass of water all
No.
day. I've had that happen where if I've got other stuff going on, or if I like wake up and have a coffee and then I have a soda with lunch and then I get in here and whatever, don't have anything, and then I'm like, oh my God, it's 4 o'clock. Why am I so thirsty? I'm like, oh, you have had 0 water all day. I think it's more common that people just kind of get wrapped up and don't think about it.
I guess. All I know is everybody's carrying around their depth charge of water now. I'm no different. Everybody's so parched all the time. They're telling us, drink water, drink water. Everybody's carrying around their water. But hopefully he's okay. A scary thing to see on camera. And listen, who knows how many times we don't see that on camera. There's been a bunch of times where we've gone through big stretches here on this program where I was sure the Poundcake was dead back in that studio because we just didn't hear him, didn't see him. Imagine we cut to him and poor young man slumped over his microphone. Could you imagine that?
Well, you guys did say it reminded you of my live read, so...
Yeah, I sent it to the group chat, and Bill goes, it was like Poundcake on his Bob Evans live read. I was walking down Euclid, and I laughed out loud when I saw that. Holy cow.
Before my time.
Seizure? It could have been a seizure. Mary, you weren't even here for that, so shut up.
I said it was before my time.
I was going to say.
My goodness. Enough out of you.
I'm defensive because of that. That was like my very first one, and it really jammed me up.
But you've gotten second chances.
Yeah, and I didn't mess up.
Right. Well, it's okay. That was your very first one. You got it in your own head.
You bring it up, and it reminds me of it. I forget
it's a
about
defense
it.
mechanism. I have to bring it up. If I don't bring it up, then people are going to be like, "Oh, he's scared."
I wish I had it. It was so spectacular.
Well,
for the
what
first
happened?
25 seconds.
He was sailing through a 30 for Bob Evans.
It was perfect.
It was perfect. I'm sure that he had rehearsed it. Listen, security is knowing your lines, and he's no dummy, right? When he does the Poundcake sports break, he's got one coming tomorrow. He's always running his lines. He's always practicing in the breaks until we get to it, and it's showtime, and the lights are on, and he's center stage. And so he had been doing that, I'm sure, because he didn't want to screw it up. And he almost nailed it. And he got to literally the last 3 or 4 seconds, and something happened where he had a full-on brain fart. I think in his brain he was going, "You're doing it, you're doing it."
No,
and then he tripped.
Was, "You're done, you did it, you've done it."
And you were prematurely celebrating.
That's the only thing I can think of. I think I looked at because I was reading, but I was also.
It was the verbal equivalent of you jumping over that puddle over here on Euclid the other night. Yes. He face planted. He was holding his phone and his camera up.
Instead of like jamming up the lines, I really think that I missed a line like on the page. I was reading off the live read, and I think you know how it's like numbered? You know how we have it so you time it out perfectly? I think I skipped over one of the lines. Then I was trying to go back and reread that line to make sure I had it correct. And it jumbled everything up. And at that point, I froze. Like it wasn't. There was no coming back from it because my brain's telling me you were there, you had it. What happened? And going back now would just sound pointless. It would sound crazy. So I think I literally did have a seizure because a seizure is just stopping.
It does it no justice for us to talk about it. But if I wish that I had it, but. I hope you learn, by the way, Poundcake, that anytime you're doing promotional copy, a real professional rewrites it in their own voice.
It was in my own voice.
But you were reading it verbatim.
But I was reading it in my own voice.
I don't mean your physical voice.
No, I'm saying
my throat was saying the noises.
No,
my vocal cords were vibrating in the same ways that everyone else does.
They gave me what they wanted me to say, and then I rewrote it.
You
in
did?
my own words.
Okay.
But
that's what I mean. That's the way to do it. And you still tripped up.
Yes, I wrote it like how I would say it, and still I wanted to make sure I had everything in there.
Had you typed gerbly blubbly gerbil at the end?
I don't think there was a gerbly bubbly burble. It was and then. And then I think I did look up at you for a split second, and you kind of gave me the side eye, and then I just see you pressed a button, and we went to commercial
I did.
break.
I got to move on, homie.
I sat there.
You got 30 seconds. Make the most of them. I looked at him like I looked over to Erica when she passed out on the air. It's the same effect.
And then Erica comes running in the room. First thing she does, she sees like my eyes all swelling because I'm about to cry, and she's like, "Don't cry. He's
about to cry." He's totally made for this business.
She was like,
"It's okay." NOLAN remerges RN while the university or the UN mission as whole received support from all parties in the hues of the Garvins of today. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. He had his own Hughes of the Garvins moment. We've all got to have them. Listen, I've done it.
I've talked about these things. That's why it's funny to think back on now. But at the time, it was my whole world because it's happened a couple times. That live read was the worst thing that's happened to me on air. All the other stuff it's embarrassing because it's supposed to be embarrassing, like the polar blast punishments. Those are supposed to be embarrassing. But that one was not supposed to be embarrassing. I'm supposed to nail it. And the fact that I was like almost at the finish line and then I trip over a rock and fall and everyone else passes me, that's what that was like. That was the worst thing that happened to me on air.
It really was it was the self-fulfilling prophecy of Poundcake.
And then the whole, monsters incident where I didn't fall, but I might as well have because my mic wasn't on and
Yeah, but that's something that nobody's really going to notice.
That's like technical.
Yeah, until you turn it on.
I was
people are when we're down there on the ice, for people who do that, they're barely paying attention to us. So that's the best scenario. But if you don't turn your mic on, they're like, whatever, they're going to get a beer or whatever.
I guess so.
I used to, for a very brief time before COVID, I did these little 30-second to 1-minute spots for a local news station. And I only did like 3 or 4 of them, and then they stopped asking me back because it was almost exactly what you said. I would practice. And for whatever reason, when I got in front of those big TV cameras and the lights came on.
Something happens, man.
I could not remember my lines to save.
Really?
My
It's the brain
life.
chemistry. It's the brain chemistry, dude.
There's
something that happens, just like I know I'm not
You can
supposed
blame it on whatever you want.
But
it's
There's
just like
plenty of
something
people
switches.
who nail it.
I think it was just being nervous and that I had never done that before. It's my first time really being in front of like a television camera, and you don't have a prompter. It's only a 30-second thing. It's like a quick little commercial that they would do. And that maybe they were a minute long, but either way, I messed up like 2 or 3 of them in a row. like these things are supposed to be 5 minutes in and out. Gab Cruz does them, nails them every single time. And they're like, oh, well, let's let you try one of these. And I couldn't do it. These shoots that were supposed to take 5 minutes would take me like 40 minutes because I kept screwing
Alan,
them up.
You don't think something happens with like the brain chemistry? Just like when you go on air, you're not supposed to curse. Like something happens in my brain where it's like, you're on air right now. You can't talk like you would normally talk. Like it just.
Yes, but the brain chemistry switch that you're describing for me in that scenario helps me to succeed at what I'm doing.
Okay, but I didn't say whether it makes you succeed or fail. It's just there's.
It makes
He looks at them the same.
It makes me succeed in that I don't use expletives when the mics are on. Yes.
Okay.
If I'm hearing you correctly. Here's that. I've got footage of Mary doing those.
Well, a very, very heavy debatation tonight. We had a very Darrison bite. Let's go to Terrace Chase and look for the head of the pit.
Monsters, hockey, or whatever. Hey, Kirstie Alley died.
That's so sad.
I couldn't believe she was 71. That's what jumped out at me. I had no idea she was that old. That's like
Cheers
old.
was
I just
been off the air for 30 years.
I know, and she was in Star Trek too.
I'm not being.
Look
She
who's
was
talking.
Lieutenant Savick. Yeah, I was
That's how I knew
wondering
her.
because she's OG Scientology. I wondered if Travolta turned her on to it in Look Who's Talking.
Oh, maybe.
Because she was a Scientologist since like the 70s. She was up there.
Well, if she was, when did Travolta join?
I don't know. I'm wondering if it
That
was
movie
earlier
was
than
like
that about that.
That was late
90s.
80s, early 90s.
Look who's talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one came out like 89
88
or 90.
or 89,
Was
I
the
think.
first one was with babies?
Yeah,
And the
with Bruce
second
Willis
one was with
yeah.
dogs?
Yep.
Okay, so I saw the
No,
dog
the
one.
first one. I'm sorry.
First 2 were babies, I think.
First is Baby, and then it was his baby sister, voiced by Roseanne, and then the third one was with dogs.
So there was
89,
Look Who's Talking.
Look Who's Talking 2, TOO.
Look Who's Talking Now.
And then Look Who's Talking Now with the dogs.
That's the one I knew.
So 89, 90, and 93 were the
93.
movies.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
Bruce Willis doing the voice of the baby.
There's
But
a really funny scene in those movies where the Bruce Willis baby is looking at this lady, and John Travolta is holding the baby, and she's got cleavage, and he goes, "You think what I'm thinking? Yeah, lunch, because babies
of course,
suck on boobs
like big
for
boobies.
food."
Yeah,
That's
a lot of
the
people.
joke.
A lot of people credited Pulp Fiction with the big John Travolta comeback, but I always thought it was Look Who's Talking. I mean, that was a big hit for John Travolta, and of course, it would lead to I think in my own head that Quentin Tarantino saw that movie and said, this is terrible. But the guy doing the baby's voice and the human dad, I might want to team them up in something I'm doing. And so Travolta and Bruce Willis, of course, would come back a few years later in Pulp Fiction. But yeah, Kirstie Alley she's resting in the arms of Xenu. I don't know if there's an afterlife in Scientology. I mean, they think that, humans are immortal spirits that will re-inhabit another body for all eternity. They're full of the thetans, right? So I don't know if that means reincarnation or what, but apparently Kirstie Alley had not that long ago been diagnosed with colon cancer and didn't go public with it. They had only recently discovered it. She lives in Florida. She's such a huge Scientologist that her place was in Lakeland, Clearwater, which is where the big Scientology HQ is.
Okay.
Which is where she lived.
You want to hear this? This is what it says on Scientology.org. Scientologists believe that people are immortal spiritual beings who have lived before and who will live again, and that their future happiness and immortality as spiritual beings depends on how they conduct themselves in the here and now.
Clear as mud.
So she's going to live again, and because she lived as a good person, she will be immortal and happy.
That's why they signed a billion-year contract.
Yeah, right? Colon cancer, they call a silent killer because symptoms often don't present themselves until the patient is beyond a cure. And so I guess that's what happened to Kirstie Alley.
That's why I get checked every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
For colon cancer?
Yes. Some of it is recreational and some of it is by professionals. But it's important. Bill's absolutely right. It is important to get checked. Kirstie Alley was...
Best defense is a good offense.
That's right. In recent years, Kirstie Alley had become kind of more political, but I guess a lot of people in her age group have. But she was good in stuff. She was Lieutenant Saavik in Star Trek II. That's the first time I saw her. That might have even been her first movie.
I'm trying to think. There was something where she was like the hot wife. Was she not like Parent Trap, but a movie like that?
I don't know. She was in a movie called Summer School back in the day. Huh?
It Takes Two with the Olsen twins, where they go off
and
to
Steve
camp.
Guttenberg.
Yeah, and they have to bring their parents back together. Yeah, that's what it was.
That's how you know
it's like a little bit derivative of another movie. I can't think of it at the moment.
What?
Maybe it perhaps is a little bit like Parent Trap. Maybe.
That's what she said.
Yeah, maybe.
No, it's not.
No, you said it was like the Parent Trap.
Yeah, but it's not. It Takes Two. It's not exactly the same. Or I think
it was a biography of the Rob Bass song with Kirstie Alley.
The dad and the one girl live in like Paris or something, and they're like super rich. And then Kirstie Alley's like the fun, wacky mom, and they like live in an apartment in the city.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it was. And they got married and divorced and never told each other about the twins or something like that.
She famously did a show called Fat Actress because she had gotten pretty hefty, and then she did Jenny Craig commercials for a while. She had a sitcom a few years ago. She did Dancing with the Stars about a decade back. I think one of the last things she did is she was just on The Masked Singer, to quote Nick Cannon. And I always thought she was cute, man.
I would love
Kirstie Alley was really cute.
To have twins with a woman, split up, and then decide, I only need one of these kids.
Right.
And have that woman decide, same.
Right.
So it's like we both have one kid. It's such
because what was
such a crazy premise to be like, oh, you got a kid, I got a kid. They're twins, so they're basically the same kid. There's no difference in their personality.
I'm trying to remember. I have not seen that movie in so long.
Was it Dennis Quaid and Natasha Richardson? The late Natasha?
It was Kirstie Alley.
No, he's talking about the Parent Trap.
The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, that was Dennis
Quaid. Yeah.
Dennis Quaid. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, on IMDb, it just gives you one sentence. Alyssa and Amanda are two little girls who are identical but complete strangers that accidentally meet one day.
There you go.
But I don't remember how they do it.
I believe it's the classic they run into each other at camp.
No, it's not a camp.
Because one's British and one's...
Alyssa's the rich girl. Oh, and then Amanda's an orphan.
Straight up orphan?
She's a straight up orphan. The two little girls are identical but complete strangers. Together, they form a plan to try to get Alyssa's father, Roger, the rich guy, to prevent making the biggest mistake of his life and offer marrying an awful woman. So maybe Kirstie Alley works at like the
Orphanage.
orphanage or something? Oh, yeah, it is camp-based. All right, relax.
Camp-based. Kirstie Alley was in a great movie called Drop Dead Gorgeous, by the way. Remember that?
That's
I
a
love
great
that
movie.
one, yeah.
She was real good in that.
That's a very funny movie.
My favorite factoid about Kirstie Alley is that she was the only regular from Cheers, because she famously replaced Shelley Long on Cheers. She was the only regular from Cheers who would not do Frasier, because the series was about medical psychiatrists. And, of course, Scientologists are brainwashed to believe that psychiatry is all nonsense, like Tom Cruise, right? Famously, psychiatrists are all nonsense and it's all made up. It's more likely that you're full of alien blood, and that needs to be cleared from your body.
Well, there's aliens in your blood, idiot.
Yeah,
But they wanted her to come back on Frasier, because one by one, like they would have Shelley Long, they would have, some other people come by, because it was a Cheers spinoff, obviously.
Did it have the same storyline from Cheers? Like, was Shelley Long his ex?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
they-
'cause
and
he was Frasier from Cheers.
Okay. I
and it
didn't know.
existed.
Yeah, they wanted her to do, she had that sitcom Veronica's Closet back in the day.
I remember that one.
Yeah. So, she did a lot of, work.
So here's what we'll do. We're going to split up. You take one baby and I'll take one baby, and we'll call it cool.
Call it even.
I think it's.
Why
I
does
don't
that
know.
bother me so much? But it
Because
makes me laugh.
it's completely unrealistic.
It's insane. But it also, is it unrealistic? I feel like when the original came out, it's not that unrealistic. Like the one from the 60s.
I don't know.
Like, I feel like back in those days, they would have been like, yeah, you take a baby, I'll take a baby.
Right. But in the 90s.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
In the 90s, I don't know if it's happening. But in the 60s, they're like, we'll just split up these two babies and call
It makes me
cool.
want to go watch that movie again.
I'm telling you, it makes me want to have twins and then split them up and see if they can find each other.
But what if you don't have twins? Do you have twins in anywhere in your family?
I don't know, but we should find out by seeing if they can find the lost one.
Yeah, but it was also a ripoff of the Patty Duke Show from way back, which was an even more bonkers premise, which is that they were identical cousins.
Oh!
One was from Scotland, and the
Identical
other one
cousins.
the identical cousins. That's going way back. Patty Duke Show was like in the friggin' 50s, but the premise was that they were identical cousins, and obviously she was playing both roles.
Identical cousins.
Yeah, because that happens.
Yeah.
I've got to take a break here. If you want to text for anything, 35192 to get me there, AlanCoxShow.com to watch. And you can listen anywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
The Alan Cox Show on 100.7
WMMS.